Hello, and welcome to this week's CML Statehouse Report. We've got a lot to cover this week, so I'll get right to it. The first bill I want to cover is House Bill 21-1117, which is CML's initiated legislation to clear the air around local government land use authority and a local government's ability, to promote affordable housing. The bill was heard in House Transportation and Local Government last Wednesday, March 10th. I certainly want to thank all of our members and our supporters that came and testified in support of the bill. There were two amendments that were brought by the opposition in order to, quote, place guardrails on the bill. CML did oppose both of those amendments, and fortunately, neither of them were actually adopted by the committee. The bill subsequently passed out of committee on a party line vote, and we expected to hear the bill on the floor as early as early this week. So be sure to look for any legislative alerts or any opportunities from CML to contact your legislator to talk about this CML priority bill this year. The next bill I want to talk about is Senate Bill 64, which will be heard in committee on March 18th. And what this bill does is includes elected officials in the current law that creates higher penalties for individuals that harass judges. Should this bill pass, elected officials will also, if someone is harassing an elected official, that person could face a higher penalty. CML is, of course, supportive of this legislation as we represent elected officials down at the Capitol, and I plan to testify in support of the legislation on the 18th. The final bill I want to talk about and get on everyone's radar, as it was just introduced, is Senate Bill 176, also called the Power Act. What this bill does is it creates substantial liability for local governments when it comes to harassment claims in the workplace. In addition to creating opportunities to bypass the administrative process and move directly to court to sue municipalities as employers, it also expands the definition of employee to include independent contractors, which is a big concern from us. The bill also does a number of other things in terms of expanding the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, and we are currently opposed to this legislation. That's all I have for this week. As always, please contact us with any questions, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to the next lobbyist.
Hi, everyone. This is Heather Stauffer. This week, I'm going to talk about three bills. The first bill is House Bill 1071, Ranked Choice Voting in Nonpartisan Elections. This bill allows a municipality to coordinate with a county on elections which use ranked choice voting methods. This bill was heard in the House Finance Committee this week, and CML testified in support of that bill. It passed the committee on a 7-4 vote. The second bill I want to talk about is Senate Bill 34, Water Resource Financing Enterprise. This bill would have charged customers of municipal water utilities a fee that would have gone towards water projects throughout the state of Colorado. We felt it was inequitable that municipal customers would bear most of the cost without seeing most of the benefit for those water projects. We testified in opposition to this bill in committee this week, and that bill died on a 3-2 vote. The final bill I want to talk about is Senate Bill 88. This is the Child Sex Abuse Accountability Act. The bill passed the Senate Judiciary Committee this week. The bill creates a statutory cause of action for a victim of sexual abuse. The bill has a retroactive application and expressly overrides the Colorado Governmental Immunity Act, which means there's no cap on damages and no cap on attorney's fees for municipalities. We know that the CGIA is important because it protects taxpayers from having to shoulder the burden if a local government gets sued out of existence, essentially. So we're working with the proponents of that bill and our other local government partners to put together some amendment language, which adds a waiver of the CGIA, which would allow these crimes to be prosecuted within that body of law. And that's it for me this week. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Bill Clearing here, and today I will be providing updates on two bills related to municipal finance and one budget request related to lottery and gaming. The first bill I want to discuss is Senate Bill 148, which creates the Office of Financial Empowerment in the Attorney General's Office. This office will be authorized to partner with governmental bodies, including local governments, to expand access to financial empowerment programs. Financial empowerment programs are a rapidly growing policy that advance citizens' financial literacy. They range from one-on-one financial counseling on debt management to saving strategies. Denver and Pueblo currently offer these services to their residents. Under this bill, the Office of Financial Empowerment will be tasked with working with local partners, including willing local governments, to implement and scale financial empowerment programs as they see fit. This office would also provide financial and administrative resources for local governments that are interested in these programs. This bill will be heard in the Senate Finance Committee today, March 15th. The next bill I'll discuss is House Bill 1168, which requires local governments, including municipalities, with an annual operating budget of $500 million to collect data regarding the participation of historically underutilized businesses and local government procurement for a 5-year period, and requires local government to annually report this data to the Secretary of State. This bill seeks to put local entities in a good position to do a disparity study if they would like to implement preferences in the procurement process in the future. CML is currently working with the sponsors to get a better understanding of the bill and working on possible amendments. Lastly, I would like to provide an update on the Department of Revenue's budget request to expand Keno services statewide. CML had an opposed position on this request. On March 11th, the department withdrew this request to expand Keno and bars and restaurants. However, the Joint Budget Committee did approve a request to restructure the contract for the state lottery to an incentive-based structure. As of now, the Keno portion of this request will not be moving forward. And that concludes my updates for this week. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan McKillop, a legislative and policy advocate with CML. Here are a few things that happened last week at the Capitol. The Senate Local Government Committee passed Senate Bill 84 to the Committee of the Whole. This bill would provide more local authority over roughed-in roads, which are roads that have been cut to create a road, but don't actually qualify as technical roads. Areas like these look like open space, and certain communities are seeing higher rates of dumping, unregulated target practice, and local officials are concerned about the possibility of fires being started in these areas. So this bill would just give some local governments more authority over these areas and ensure public safety. The Senate should consider this bill on second reading this week. Next, I want to talk about broadband. House Bill 21-1109, which would make changes to the Broadband Deployment Board, was considered by the Finance Committee on Thursday, March 11th. This bill would streamline the Broadband Deployment Board while still maintaining representation of municipalities on the board. This bill is a step towards providing greater broadband access throughout the state and especially in critically unserved areas. The bill creates mapping requirements that would result in better data that the Broadband Deployment Board could then use to issue grants to communities that want to increase their internet access. The next step is for the House to consider this bill on second reading, and CML is the support of this bill. Lastly, I want to provide an update on House Bill 21-1162, the management of plastic products. The House Energy and Environment Committee considered this bill on Thursday of last week, March 11th, and sent the bill to the Finance Committee with one amendment. The bill would create a statewide ban on plastic bags and styrofoam and would repeal an outdated preemption on local government's ability to regulate plastic products. The amendment passed by the Energy and Environment Committee clarifies that plastic that is being used for the packaging of medical equipment would be exempted from any of the provisions of the bill. The bill would be considered by the House Finance Committee next, but it's not on the calendar as of this recording. Again, we're supporting this bill and especially that repeal of local government preemption. As always, please reach out with any questions. Thanks.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Again, please feel free to always contact the lobbyists if you have any questions or concerns, and we'll see you next week.